Everything we know, the entire universe, might just be a simulation running inside a supercomputer. In this dream world of the imagination, anything is possible. Join us on the Simulationist podcast as we explore our culture of simulations.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the Simulationist podcast. This is the 209th iteration of the show, recorded on the 16th, the 12th of September,
Not the 16th,
2016.
Yeah.
I get ahead of myself. My name is Josh 11. That other voice you heard a little taste of, and you're about to hear another
Chronicler,
taste of.
Ryan Kirkby.
Your ears are going to taste his voice, I guess.
Yes,
That's Ryan Kirkby.
Taste my voice with your sensual ears.
And I already said I'm Josh 11,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Okay.
You're still, don't worry. You haven't changed it.
All right, yeah, we're back. Another week.
Yeah.
A
week and a few days. We're doing a little slippage here.
Yeah, it's my life is getting busy, but I guess this is not.
Don't worry, there's still room in it for you, there, gentle listeners.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just a little bit more crazier than it has historically been. Not in a bad way, though.
Well, yeah. The generally positive reasons for all of this. Yeah.
Yeah, the need to sleep means you can't do it at any given time of the day.
Yeah.
But yes. I think we got some news stories for this week.
Okay. Well,
at least pertaining to fiction.
Yeah.
The first, I guess, is going to be some bad news. The game, Facebook game Marvel Avengers Alliance, gave its notice earlier this month and says by the end of September they're shutting down. They're not even going to just let it linger or anything like that. They are just going to completely take it off Facebook.
Huh.
Now there is an Avengers Alliance 2, game out there, but it's only for mobile phones, sort of thing. And it's because it's owned by Disney. It's very much focused only on the Disney-owned Marvel movie characters. So you're not going to see the X-Men or the Fantastic Four in there.
All right.
And it's just how they decided to go. And honestly, I don't really blame them. But it does seem a little shallower without. Oh, well.
Yeah.
On the one hand, it's like I'm really sad because I've spent like 4 years playing this game. Not, like continuously I play the most out of it every day. There have been times where it's just like go in, get the base minimum stuff, and then pop on out. I got other stuff to do, or I'm sick and all of that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, it's like, dude, I've been playing this game for like 4 years. It's a Facebook game. I think that has well past exceeded its projected lifespan.
Yeah.
Like most games on Facebook, if they last a year, that's considered pretty darn good. Some games can go longer because that they don't really have much more to them. We're adding like a new level. It's just like a random generation, added, put in there and then added in. Other games are like, I made it, it's done, it's out there, so now you can play it and just replay it as much as you want. It's over. This one, Marvel's Avengers Alliance, like the new levels required a lot of work to make sure everything worked. There is some evidence that there was some spaghetti coding going on in the back where they'd update one thing, over here. They put in a new character and all of a sudden something completely unrelated winds up breaking for a week or two. So it's like, what is going on there? So, I suppose, it has hit its limit on that sort of thing. Also, I won't lie, after so much time, there is a bit of a gradual build-up barrier to get to where I am in the game, where you have almost all the characters recruited and decently trained and well-equipped. Would take a newcomer just like at least another year of gaming without or spend a lot of money to buy the currency that will allow them to preemptively buy the characters. It would have taken just so much time and effort that most people, I guess, wouldn't join in the game because there's too much to do, and that's when something new comes rolled out. They, especially for the limited time special ops that they have there, they could not participate in it properly because they don't have all the characters needed to get the final resolution in there. So it was kind of building up. It's like a barrier on itself to providing fun for new players. Which is a little sad, but it happens, right? Unless you start making like the older characters cheaper, might as well take them, they're free. Yeah, like it's just gonna wind up after 4 years of adding new characters, it's gonna be just too much. Like, where do I go? What do I buy? I don't have enough currency.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, like I got 21 pages of characters, assuming 90 points per and 8. I said no, I'm not even gonna do the math on that. That's just way too many points to spend. It would have taken you forever to have gotten that. So, yeah, I'm going to be, in the end, okay and happy that it had a good run, good course, some great artwork, some absolutely wonderful images of a lot of heroes. It introduced me to some characters I really didn't know of before. Like, I had heard of Excalibur as being kind of like a British sort of like Avengers X-Men sort of thing, but I really didn't know the characters very well, and because I got a chance to play them in the game, I got a chance to know them, and I kind of dug what they're like and, the personalities they have with them. It was good. It helped expose me more to the greater Marvel universe.
Okay, yeah.
I am going to miss some characters. I'm a little saddened I never got Wolverine up to his maximum level. I'm going to miss the heck out of Squirrel Girl. Well, they never did put Jubilee in, so it's like, oh, man.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, I had a lot of fun, and I guess that's all you can hope for a Facebook game, right? Like who's going to say, God, they should have kept it around forever. This is a Facebook game, man. It has to be there for years. It's like, no, this is pretty well long lasted. So,
right.
That said,
okay.
I'm going to have to do my darndest to make sure I make it to the end of the storyline, because they did release a bunch of content for this final month. Like, oh, we had this plan, so we'll just toss that out for you there. Make sure you get a chance to experience it. They did give a final ending to the storylines they were going with, and that's kind of nice. A lot of things where they just cut it out, you don't, especially think about movies and TV series that never got a chance to give their final episode. It's like, oh no, you're just not renewed for the next season. It ends, right?
Mm-hmm.
At least this one, it had an ending, and that's very nice. Even if the thing is just a little not exactly as happy an ending as I guess everyone would have hoped. So yeah, whatever. At least it's an ending. It's not oh yeah, then they shut the game off one day and said sorry.
Okay.
So yeah, that's nice. Bittersweet, I think is the word for that maybe describes it best. So yeah, there's that. I guess we do have happier news, and this one's only partially fiction related, so I hope you'll bear with us, because it does get into the fiction. So, our nearest star is Alpha Centauri, or Proxima Centauri.
The nearest star to the sun.
Yeah, the sun. Well, I guess it's nearest to us. It's not oh yeah, by the way, when you work it at the right angle, we're slightly closer to another star. No.
Well, we're closer to the sun.
Yeah, the sun doesn't count for our perspective.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why we
Not
call it
counting.
the sun.
All right.
It's the solar system because it's the sun's soul, right? Yes, the nearest star system to ours is Alpha Centauri that has it has a sun orbiting that, Proxima Centauri, and apparently orbiting Proxima Centauri is a planet, and it's a very much Earth-like planet.
Well, very much. Earth-like in terms of how far it is from the sun.
It's not a gas planet, sort of thing.
And that it's the fact that it is rocky is 30% bigger than Earth.
But that's not too bad, all things considered. 30% bigger isn't that much bigger on what we've seen from exoplanets, though.
Okay.
It is bigger, and so that means gravity's going to be a little bit more, but thanks to how gravity works, it's not going to wind up, it'll crush our spines, sort of thing.
Yeah. I think this happened, they found it, or they announced it a while ago, but we're just getting to it because we want to talk about it, right?
Because we want to make sure that they had verified everything properly. Sometimes, when they say we've seen a planet, this is the sort of thing where they say mathematically there should be a planet here. They have verified the numbers out much more recently on this. So it's yay! Peer approval, success. And speaking as a person that, is in the sciences.
Actually, that's a good point.
I could go out and announce that I found 17 more planets orbiting the sun, but, without any proper math to prove it, no one's going to take me seriously.
Well, there is a ninth planet that the guy who
there
basically
already
demoted,
is a ninth planet. It's called Pluto.
The guy who demoted Pluto, Dr. Brown, I think is his name.
I'm going to demote him. He's a subhuman.
Well, he found another planet.
Oh, how very convenient. It's not a dwarf planet. Sorry, I keep distracting. This guy really just...
well, have you read about this, Ryan? Like,
I've read it rather than the brief snippets of it.
He's like 90. I don't forget if it's 95 or 99% sure that there definitely is that other planet is out there.
Planet or dwarf planet?
Like a real planet, according to his definition of planet, which does not include Pluto. Okay. I didn't realize. Like, are you seriously on the side of you think Pluto's still a planet?
I think their classification of it into a dwarf planet is contentious. To clear out your orbit properly would have to wind up meaning that places like Jupiter could be considered a dwarf planet because of its Trojan asteroids in Lagrange points.
I don't think that's the case, because Jupiter really dominates those, and the only reason they're there is because of Jupiter, because Jupiter holds them there.
But that's the thing, is it still hasn't cleared its orbit. And there's over 1 million of these things sitting there that are a mile wider in diameter. They're not just little bits of space speck. I mean, it's not something where you could play like one of those things with the Little Prince, where he's got that tiny little moon planet to himself, where you could actually see the the whole or I guess like Rick and Morty with the tiny planet they wind up trying to settle on after they have to bust out away from Earth because of incidents.
Okay.
It's not like that small. It's significantly bigger. Like it's 1 mile in diameter, sort of thing. So it's just not sizable. It's pretty sizable there, man. So yeah, like these things are not considered small. And I really think that trying to calling it a demotion to dwarf planet as opposed to classifying it as what's the thing is at one point none of the orbits were particularly clear, right? So we could have called this a proto-settled orbit. That one day Pluto will have it all cleared out given enough time, but it hasn't hit that yet. So you could utilize the fact that it has not properly cleared its orbit as a way of stating where it is along its planetary development.
Except I don't think Pluto is ever really going to clear that orbit. Also, Pluto's orbit is weird.
You could just call it a dirty orbit. Like, is it really hard to say that Pluto has a dirty orbit?
Here's the thing about what I don't like about Pluto's orbit is it actually crosses the orbit of a bigger planet. That's my problem with that orbit.
From what I've been told, it's actually not uncommon for a lot of exoplanets to have such similar orbits. The fact that Earth has so many planets in its neighborhood that have very stable, even on like a planar, one single planar field, where they're all orbiting like on the one axis. In relation to each other, is considered apparently very rare. That's what makes the solar system a weird place to study. Most of the other planets have differing angles to each other.
Well, I think part of the reason why we see that though is because we detect large planets and planets that are very close to their home stars. So a lot of hot Jupiters and stuff, and only recently have we been able to detect closer to Earth-sized planets. And that's for very specific reasons. So there's a lot of planets we're not seeing. But here's the thing, because you have planets orbiting on the same plane, you will be able to hit points in time where their multiple weights will cause the deformations on the star that make it so easily and noticeable for the exoplanets to be discovered. You can utilize the mass of the planets in unison in the proper orbital configurations to show up. It's kind of like sending off a flare. An Earth-like planet isn't going to cause too much deformation to its star. But if you got 3 or 4 Earth-like planets and they might happen to be, all in alignment, which, oh man, that drives some of those crazy, space nuts just up the walls. Like, oh my God, it means something. What it really means is that it means they'll deform the star a lot more, and so it's much more noticeable to say, hey, there are planets over here. But it's not the star itself that it's deforming, although I guess gravity technically has an effect everywhere.
There's a gravity as well as a light deformation going on there.
Yeah, but you wouldn't be able to detect a gravitational deformation of a star unless it was like a whole other star. You'd need that much mass.
It was gravitational as well as gravitational lensing. It changes the shape of the star when it orbits around close to you on the thing. it's also much math and all that sort of thing about like how like it like moves the light waves.
Well,
but that's what they utilize to detect.
What it moves is so what it moves what it distorts is the path of the star. Like the path, we see the star either traveling like against other background stars, further back stars. Then that's very hard to detect because it takes a long time to see that movement.
But the longer we keep doing it, the more the math adds up, and we're going to be able to detect a lot of stuff when the numbers start flying in. So,
I think this is. I don't know if this is exactly what Kepler telescope uses, but so there's that, and then when the planet moves from one side to the other. Well, okay, that's another. That's the transit method. So there's the wobble method is when the planet goes from one side to the other side. We see the position of the star is not a steady like movement across the background field. It'll look kind of staggered. Yeah, it slows. It wobbles basically is what we're saying. So that's what you see when you have multiple planets. And I guess it's to the point, and this is really cool, that this is how they discover multi-planet systems, is that you can actually see sort of whatever the variations in the wobble, you calculate that out and whatever, and you work out like, I guess they look like waves or whatever, so each planet produces a different wobble. And so you see all those. Then you have to
like reverse engineer like how much wobble is from each one as you just unravel like layers on an onion.
Yeah, I think that's how they do it. Okay.
Well, yeah, they can, but here's the thing: is like the wobble becomes more pronounced if the planets are in alignment on the same plane, like most of ours are.
Yeah, I think that would happen. Yeah.
And so in which case, that's one thing that they have noticed as they're looking at these exoplanets in the system, that having all the planets being on the same plane as our planet's orbit is actually surprisingly rare. Most of them have like angles to each other, which does make the orbits a little easier to, I guess, reverse the math on. Because it's like, because if it wobbles along a northwest, like southeast, angle as opposed to like, on the elliptic sort of thing, well, then you can definitely tell that there's two planets going on here. But if you got all planets on the same one, things get a little more, the math is also much crazier.
Yeah, maybe you wouldn't be able to sort out the different wobbles.
It gets a little harder, especially if you got much smaller planets like Mercury in there, that'll only contribute a little bit, but can help add in when they're in proper alignment with the others. But yeah, there's distortion and some altered effects from having the planet change some patterns of light to cause was effectively a diffraction. But that's much more minor, but it will wind up helping out to determine a lot of information.
With the transit method, and that's when a planet goes between us and its star, essentially eclipsing like a stellar eclipse of that planet and its star.
That helps out a lot more when it's a smaller star and a larger, more Jupiter-sized planet. Otherwise, because you put Earth in front of the sun, and you're like, how much did that dim? And it's like not very much at all.
I think it might be detectable at certain distances, but
in the next star system, it's like Earth alone. If it was just Earth and the sun, like oof. It would be hard to detect just us, man.
I think, we might need the next generation of space telescopes to get better, but which they're planning.
But here's the
building.
thing. So long story short, because the planet and I will keep calling it a planet, the planet of Pluto.
Oh, that's how we got on this topic.
Because the planet of Pluto, orbit is eclectic, sort of thing, and it is like at the angle. I don't consider that to be like derogatory on it. That just makes it a little bit more in line with a lot of planets out there for the exoplanet studies. And that's the thing is like, would it really be that hard to just classify it as having a dirty orbit as opposed to a proper cleaned orbit? I'm willing to accept that because Jupiter only has things in its Lagrange points to have it considered to have a cleared orbit, whereas Pluto has a lot of debris it still needs to clean out. It has a dirty orbit. Would it really have been much harder to have reclassified things that way as opposed to say, no, we've demoted it to a dwarf planet?
I don't know. Well, I feel like I did say demote, so I don't
And
know.
that's the thing. They're saying demote too, and that's
well,
the
other people. Some people have said demote. I
Oh,
mean,
a bit of a newspeak issue if you want, but I do find it to be derogatory towards the planet. You could even classify.
There's nothing wrong with being a dwarf. We have dwarfs in real life, like people who are dwarfs, and we don't hate them, or we don't think they're
Peter Dinklage.
not.
He's an amazing human being.
We don't think they're not human beings.
Yeah, he's an amazing person, man. He's got more class than I think I ever will.
And of course, dwarfs in D&D are.
They're
awesome.
always a fairly sturdy, reliable, friend to have in those fantasy games. But here's the thing, though: it's like you could even say that Pluto has been grandfathered in, and that other bodies, such as was it Sedna, the other one that is qualified as dwarf planet.
Sedna Quaoar is the other one.
Yeah,
and
you could put Pluto in as a classical. A classical studied body, planet, whereas we were able to use it using the more old-fashioned techniques to determine planets, whereas stuff like Sedna required the much more new age. It would be, like you qualify that as just like techniques you require to study it. There's that's just as good as calling,
I don't know. That's just basically it's as good a reason as any. Like we name stars at 1995 something B or whatever. Because
unless you want to pay money to
get
them to say it's Susan the star. But no, the actual scientists don't use that. Yeah, we do have proper technical names.
They name them after the year it was discovered, or after Kepler 221b. They name it after the telescope that saw it. So in that way, yes, we do name things based on our subjective experience of it, which may have very little to do with the physical reality of that object.
But I think it does pay at least as much good homage to the history of our study of the stars.
Yeah.
The date of when you discovered it. That's not exactly amazing, but then you can work out we didn't always know about Uranus, and I will pronounce it that way, as a planet, right? That wasn't always known.
Yeah.
After Saturn, people had a hard time looking at this stuff historically because we did not have powerful enough telescopes.
We didn't have telescopes at all until 1500s, something like that.
Yeah.
And then they found Uranus 1700s.
Yeah, because they were able to do
1600s. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm totally. I have no idea what I'm talking about.
If only we had named the planet based on the date upon when it was found. But that's the thing there is that degree of the traditionally known planets that were able to be spotted with the naked eye versus those that were discovered with telescope. And I would be completely fine with planets being discovered, having classifications based on what level of technology was required to even notice them. Because that's as much a monument to our advancing technology and our advanced studying and techniques for the stars and the stellar bodies. So, just because Pluto winds up having an eclectic orbit, and it's it's only moved a quarter of its orbit since we discovered it.
Oh yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it's pretty far out there. Yeah. So I don't think demoting it to a dwarf planet it gives it justice, or trying to do this revisionist style works well for our collective knowledge of how we study the stars.
It's not revisionist though. It's just whether or not you call it quote unquote a planet, when you're writing textbooks or whatever. It's not like it changes what we think of it or how interesting it is to us. It's still just
I think
cool.
It's an amazing one. It's almost like a twin planet system with Charon going on because the moon in relation is so large to it. Yeah. I think it's a very fascinating planet to study.
But, okay, let me say this, though. What if Pluto didn't exist and it was just Charon out there? Or is it Sharon? I don't know. If it was just Charon out there and
it might
Pluto,
be Chiron, because when you think about the chimera, with the hard Greek
why wouldn't...
Chiron? Chiron, that sounds right.
Why wouldn't Charon be... We'll call it Charon. Why wouldn't Charon be considered a planet, then? If you're
if it was just that, no Pluto.
Yeah.
Go for it.
You'd say the planet Charon.
Yeah.
You'd be and everyone would love it, and they'd want it to stay a planet.
Yeah. I'd love Chiron as its own planet, sort of thing. Yeah. But I said it is orbiting almost, but it's orbiting in a highly, influential way. It does help change, it causes the wobble in in Pluto itself, the same way that the planets.
Yeah, well, all moons do that, but yes,
it's much more noticeable.
The barycenter of Pluto and Charon's system is actually outside of either body. It's closer to Pluto because Pluto is the more massive of the two. But yes, it is, which is not shared with any other moon. Now, if you wanted
to even change its classification based on that factor alone, I would be okay with it, where it would wind up being, like a heavy moons, like a planetary body sort of thing. But don't just demote it because it's like, oh, well, because it does, like, as I said, it's only moved a quarter of its orbit in the period that we've known about it. For it to clear out its orbit, it's going to take a lot more cycles.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's because it hasn't cleared it yet.
That's the thing. It is one of the reasons. One of the classifications that they now use for determining a planet is whether or not it's cleared out its orbit of stellar debris.
But it's not like, oh, we're just waiting for the day when Pluto finally clears it and then it'll finally be a planet. I don't think that's ever going to happen.
Well, not in our lifetime, no. But that's the thing. Like, once that happens, it'll have to get changed again. Because that's just how they've decided it's going to work from now on. And, like, it just seems very narrow-minded and ivory tower.
Well, here, like, I still don't understand. I mean, can we do our whole podcast on this? I still don't understand your reasoning on, like, why you think...
I think there's better ways they could have divided up the style of naming it. To add it, instead of calling it, like a planet with a dirty orbit, which is it is the most major issue of the new classification for what qualifies as a planet versus non-planet or like planetoids. Because like they could have worked on like how round it is versus and stuff like that. And mind you, if it was based on sheer roundness, is like how well it's been able to compact itself into a near spherical body. Stuff like many moons wouldn't qualify. Like have you ever seen the photos of the moons of Mars? They are not rounded. They are very,
they're basically captured asteroids or something like that. Okay.
So then you could make an argument about them maybe not being true moons on that one, because they're not like our moon that's managed to get that near spherical roundness desire to show that it is a complete discrete body, right?
Okay.
So if you wanted in this case to state that the moons of Mars were considered proto-moons, because they haven't hit that thing there, or that they would be called sub-moons because based on their size they will never wind up hitting that roundness, that's a good criteria for it. But in this case, they decided not to go with a roundness or like any one critical threshold body for what determines that, which seems odd to me. Because they utilize that with stars an awful lot. Because if a star is, like so big, when it, goes nova, it'll turn into a black hole. If it's beneath that, it'll wind up, turning into like a brown dwarf or quasar based on like various data that they are learning out there right now. So instead of having just some sort of like numeric threshold limit, they've decided to work on various categories, like does it orbit, within like so much of like a roundness, because if you worked on like stuff where it'd be highly elliptical orbits, then you would maybe have to put like Halley's Comet as a planet, because it does orbit the sun, but it's on such an elliptical orbit that it doesn't really work the same way we qualify our planets, right? So that's one of the criteria they've got for what qualifies as a planet, what qualifies as no, that's not a planet.
Right.
And I'm okay with that. But the big one that gets me is whether or not it's cleared its orbit of various interstellar debris. And with places out there like Pluto, unless it's orbiting at incredibly high speeds, which will make it very hard to stay in its orbital path around the star, it's not going to do it in any reasonable time for anything to happen. So
yeah, but this new planet that's out there somewhere. Presumably, it will be.
Says, I'm worried about this dude. But okay, continue.
Presumably, it will be large enough to have cleared out probably a big, its orbit. Like it'll be more like a Neptune or a Uranus, in that sense.
In that case, I'm willing to accept it. But because it's the same guy who demoted Pluto by the words they keep using. They keep saying demoted Pluto.
I know. Maybe it's not the best term, but I guess people are using
so
it.
I do find it a little suspicious that this guy demotes Pluto and finds his own new planet so that he's got the 9th planet in there.
Well, I mean, okay. Can we step back? Like
I will grant this: if he gives it an especially entertaining name to use, he can build some good currency with me. Like if he calls like you guy, like the fungus from Yugoth, this sort of thing. Like something from like the Lovecraftian world for like the planets out there that he mentioned.
Yeah.
Then okay. Maybe I'll grant him. Like this dude seems like he's got a good sense, of fun on his shoulders. So.
Okay, here's the history. Like, here's what really happened: is he discovered Eris, which is one of these other bodies that is beyond
dwarf
Pluto.
Planet,
it's now one of the dwarf planets in the solar.
It's one of the
trans-Neptunian objects.
Trans-Neptunian,
and it's more similar to Pluto than those objects are to any of the other 8.
Sedna and the others,
So he found Eris because in the beginning, like this is what he wanted to do. He was like, well, I'm gonna go look for other planets and maybe I'll find one, hopefully.
To be fair, he's not the first person. That is how we did find Pluto. Well, because according to the numbers, there should have been a very large planet out there, something possibly like a Saturnian in size. Turns out for a lot of that, the numbers were a little off. There's enough mass for another like Saturn, but it's kind of spread out amongst those trans-Neptunian objects.
Yeah, so he was one of these enthusiastic people, but he knew when he found Eris, he knew that he hadn't found like a giant
the planet
it's
X.
too small.
Yeah.
But the unfortunate side effect of finding Eris was that basically it was like, oh, it's kind of like Pluto, and so maybe Pluto isn't really so special when it's like one of a bunch of these other smaller objects. So it wasn't his fault. I don't blame Dr. Brown. I think that's his name.
Doc Brown.
Doc Brown. I don't blame him for like killing Pluto, but it's sort of a side effect of his curiosity and search for other planets. And then on that same line, though, his career has continued, and I don't know how long ago he found Eris. I think that was 20 years ago, but
it's been known for a while, yeah.
But yeah, the next step in his career is he's still looking for planets. He's still doing the same thing he's always been doing, and now he's got a new way.
As long as it comes with a paycheck, I don't blame the dude. I'll say that.
Yeah, I don't blame him. So now the latest information that he has been able to put together mathematically is like, he believes that the effect that you see on a bunch of these other trans-Neptunian objects, I'm not sure if it includes Eris and Quaoar and Sedna, but
maybe Pluto as well.
Yeah, maybe Pluto as well. But basically, this body way out there has effects on these things that you would not see unless 95% certain that there is a planet out there. We just don't have visual confirmation of it yet.
But that's the other thing is, one, no confirmation of it, and two, as I said, Planet X. Do you know how many times I've seen in the news the discovery of the 10th planet because Pluto counted as the 9th.
Oh, well, I mean, and that's the news media. I mean,
But that's the thing, is that people keep coming up with it and keep coming up with it. And I have yet to see any images of these planets. I have yet to see this Planet X, despite the fact it's been announced. I kid you not. I remember having this conversation with my brother. One of the previous times Planet X was discovered, I found 10 previous news articles, each separate at a different date about the discovery of Planet X.
Well,
so it's like, oh my God.
I'll say I want to say another thing about this planet searching, in that I don't think scientists, like after they've sort of said, okay, this is a planet, this is not, I don't think they talk too much about the nomenclature of like, oh, okay, this is a dwarf planet, this is a planet. After that, they can get down to the actual science. They can study it. They can say, well, how big is it? What's its orbit? Can we get to it with a spacecraft or something?
Within the next 10 years,
Do you think it has life on it? Or all these, I don't know what scientists ask because I'm not a scientist, but they ask these questions. And then I don't think they are arguing anymore about whether things are planets. That's why in 2006, they made a decision. They're saying, okay, we're not going to argue about this anymore. We could, but,
the
as
one
scientists,
astrological body did. And they're only 10% of the actual scientists in the field of astronomy.
Astrologers? Okay.
Astronomy.
Oh, astronomers. Okay.
Yeah. They're only 10% of the people there. They actually represent the minority.
Astrologers are 10% of astronomers?
Astronomy. The astronomers.
Astronomers are 10% of...
Sorry, no, now you got me confused. The astrologers, the body that decided to classify Pluto as the dwarf planet, is not a majority of the people studying the stars.
I didn't know astrologers were at that meeting in 2006.
Sure. You've gotten me all messed up in astronomy astrology.
Okay.
The astronomers.
Okay.
Forget the zodiac freaks. The astronomers studying it and that decided to make that a thing, they're not a majority of the scientists studying
stars.
The stars.
Or okay, well,
so
let me
these
see.
people trying to say that it's like a dwarf planet are not even in the majority of the people making these studies. So I have a hard time even acknowledging their weight.
The International Astronomical Union, you don't accept their authority?
Not their absolute authority.
I mean, I guess. I mean, the universe is a big place. Earth, we don't get to make the decisions for all the aliens out there, I suppose.
Well, no, not even amongst the aliens. So they're not the majority of studying from Earth.
Yeah, but I don't, if I suppose, well, has anybody taken a poll of all the scientists who study anything above the Earth? I mean... I would be interested to know what percentage.
I just like to see them get more of the bodies studying it on board before they start making these big old unilateral decisions as to what qualifies as a planet.
Oh, okay, we're back on this. All right.
Yes. Because if they're going to start making this stuff, because that's the thing is you've got.
Do you think they should have consulted you?
Well, no, I'm not in the field. But here's the thing: is you've got these organizations. That'll say we'll name a star after you for $25. We can find a star to your liking that we'll name the Josh.
Okay. Yeah.
How much weight do they have? And actually people utilizing this terminology of this star is Josh.
Yeah, not a lot.
I'll give you a hint. If you put your thumb tips together and your index fingers together, and you look at the symbol that makes, that'll give you a rough indication of the percentage.
It's a delta.
In that case, it's a variable. But I don't know about your creepy little straight fingers, but I got a big old goose egg zero going on here. That's about how much weight they have behind it. So just because you call yourself, a proper body and all that, doesn't mean you get a chance to do whatever the heck you want. So.
Fair enough. And that's, I guess the other thing is, I guess we started this conversation because you said something like, well, I don't consider it a dwarf planet.
I have
consider it
issues
a real
with their
planet.
Consideration of it.
Yeah, and I guess to that I say, well, you're welcome to, you can call it whatever. You can call it you can call it a planet, and I can call it a Doomkopf.
Well, figure it like this way. I'm a biologist, and us biologists have this fun thing of doing phylogenetic trees to see this creature's related to this creature, so way here, and we're going to figure out how everything kind of connects to each other, at least historically, right? And about every 5 years, we reorganize significant portions of this dang tree in various branches.
We do?
We as biologists do, because we figured out, we found we found a new thing with the genetics going on.
But don't
here.
they just delegate it to an authority, sort of a central
No, we have no central authority of this as biologists. We have to send out papers saying this is the reason why we should have this rat species connected closer to that rat species as opposed to this third rat species. And most of the time right now it is coming down to genetics, saying look, they could not have been related, this close together because there's so much variation, and then this gene is only seen in these two but not a third, so it had to branch off after this third one branched off earlier on.
Yeah.
And so I think ultimately we are getting closer to getting a better interpretation of where and when the speciation of various things occurred. But no one has the authority to say this is how the tree goes. This is how the evolutionary branching goes this way.
Okay.
And anyone who tries that in biology pretty much gets laughed out of their degree.
Well, I mean,
we can make propositions.
People have attempted projects to sort of map and like do a big database of like as many as they can collect.
Oh yeah,
but yeah,
beautiful
those
work of them. But
they get out of date, and it's not like this is the official authority. This is just what they've sort of collected or a sampling or whatever.
And this is what they propose. So it winds up being theories that like we biologists propose. It's like, because of this evidence, we propose that the branching genetic tree should work less.
Yeah. So the phylogenetic tree is more of a sort of an abstract concept that doesn't.
It's kind of like trying to picture the species throughout time, kind of like a fourth-dimensional image of it, right?
Okay. Yeah.
I think it's the best way of interpreting it without getting like too specific, heavy as examples, and it does help out for a lot of stuff. But historically, there's been things like before we had genetics, we had to base it on like this creature looks more like this creature here in this regard, and someone was saying like, oh no, but if you look at their teeth, these two match closer, and so we had a lot of people like arguments to like where they should be related based on how they looked, and genetics has really helped out with that because you can converge your evolution together and have things look alike, but they'll still be vastly different on the genetic level, and that really helps determine things out. But if anyone was to come out and say, this is how the tree is, and anyone who says otherwise is wrong, basically gets laughed out of their degree. No one takes them seriously as a biologist anymore.
Here, let me bring yet another tangent in.
Just to finish up. So in that regard, having the international body of astronomers say, this is how it is, rather than we propose it to be like this based on these evidences, and we think this classification would work better, then that's my biggest contention with them, is they're saying this is how we determine planets now, and this is not a planet, it is a dwarf planet based on this classification.
Are they? Is that exactly what they said? I don't know.
Well, the thing is,
they said that's what they're going to use.
They haven't opened it up to discussion as to what would make propose for better ideas. There's none of this discussion I'm seeing in the biological fields for stuff like the phylogenetic trees, and other examples go on out from that.
I'd be curious. Okay, I'll have to read the ruling.
I think that's how they make rulings, not propositions.
Well, that's what I'm. Yeah, is that they made a ruling. They said from now on everybody must refer to dwarf planets as dwarf planets and planets as planets, and never the twain shall be confused.
Well, that's the thing. It's like if you want to, don't get me wrong. I'm happy with our terrestrial planet of Earth, and I'm happy with the gas giant planet of Jupiter as a way of classifying them. Whereas Pluto and Chiron, having their orbit be, so wobbly because, as you said, the center of their gravitational combined mass, means the orbits are somewhere not on either of their bodies, right? Mm-hmm. I would love to see a proper classification for that, because I believe as exoplanets get more and more discovered, that's going to be something we're going to have to take note of, because I believe we're going to start seeing that more often.
Okay. I guess that's other interesting. There's a hole in the what the IAU has, and that is that when they define planets, they basically said this applies only to our solar system. Like, we're not talking about planets in other solar systems.
Mostly because they haven't studied enough, and I will buy that the fact that they haven't studied enough exoplanets to make these sorts of decisions apply to other stellar systems. I'm completely okay with that. Our sample size is too small. I accept that.
But I think you might have a point in that the IAU. I don't think they actually said something like everybody has to do that. I think they said something like, this is what we're going to use from now on, and because we publish a lot of papers and we sort of collect things, and I don't know what else would they
conform or ship out.
Well, it's because this is what we're going to do, and you can either do it or you don't have to, I suppose. I mean,
dwarf planet or GTFO.
Basically, I don't think it's a.
But that's the thing, is I'm not
tyrannical ruling.
As a biologist, I'm not seeing the same amount of discussion going on with their declaration as what I've seen in the biological field of how we determine this and that, and and how we interpret our results.
Well, I mean, maybe it's not as consequential. In biology, it might be consequential to say whether this creature is related to this other creature.
I was using that as one example, but it does work well as how we define a lot of stuff, like the interactions between creatures, prey, predation rates, and all that stuff. Monte Carlo simulations. There's been a lot of discussion as to which one should be properly used. There are 4 different models we utilize to determine where is an important area for an animal. Like, if you were to take a duck on a pond and determine its location at any given point in time, and then you were to determine which model to use, one of them would state accurately that the edge of a pond is the best habitat for a duck. The reeds and all that give it protection and allow for food source. If you were to use a different model of that one, you would state that the average point in between is the center of the lake. Thus, the center of the lake is the most important part of the duck's habitat. Do not disturb the center of the lake. When it actually be determined that the duck doesn't spend any time at the center of the lake. So, like we have except that there's at least four different models of modeling, like dependent of like how the animal moves, as to where it qualifies as critical habitat resources. And I'm not seeing that same sort of level of discretion with the astronomical bodies.
Well, but what I was trying to say was that maybe that's not as important. Just the simple label of planet versus dwarf planet. That doesn't affect models too much, so that you can just accept.
It does mean we only have 8 planets, because now we don't. Oh no, it's a.
Yeah, but there's there's no theory of planet formation that says, oh well, solar systems have to have 8 planets or something like that.
Stellar systems.
Yeah, or yes, okay, stellar systems have to have 8 planets. We don't, and that doesn't seem to be the case. It seems, as far as we know, that stellar systems can have any number of planets. There's no rule of 8 or rule of 9. It's just
although
that
there is
we
an
happen to have
interesting
8.
rule of distance in the solar system. Have you seen that one? If you look at the distance between the Sun and Mercury versus Venus, Earth, and Mars, they wind up being a mathematical consistent distance. Kind of like like when you work with your number sequences, how they build up mathematically. Yeah. It works very similar, like that with at least the first 4 planets. So I'd definitely like to see, as we get better with some of the smaller exoplanets, if that winds up working out the same way.
Okay, yeah.
Because that would indicate something about planetary formation, about how much distance you need between. So there might wind up being some very interesting, very, very essential math, equations going on there. So some of these things might not seem very important for planetary formation, but they might be intensely critical.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
But yes, there's a bit of a heck of a tangent on that one with the news story. But back to the main story. Proxima Centauri apparently has a very much Earth-like planet orbiting around it. And this is something that they're pretty much guaranteed. This is big in fiction because a lot of authors have utilized, the nearest star system has a planet.
Yeah, I played a video game. I forget what it was called. But
Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri?
I think that was it.
Yeah.
No, well, was it? Anyways, it was
a big name one.
It's probably that one.
Yeah, it's a big name one. It was basically like civilization in outer space. But yeah, that's the thing. It winds up being that the fiction, of the nearest star also has a planet, and that's a spot for us to go to, is now no longer a fiction. It's a fact.
Yeah.
And that's the weird, bit with as time goes on, how what is fiction, what is fact winds up, having changing goalposts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's oh yes, it turns out it's real. I don't think it's going to wind up being a spectacular sort of thing, it's not going to be if you read the Silver Age Superman thing, Krypton had a volcano that instead of blowing out magma, blew out gold, and it had jeweled, mountains going on over there.
Okay, so no gold volcanoes. That's fair enough. I mean,
don't get me wrong, it's a big universe out there. There may wind up being a volcano that is spewing out gold.
Oh, yeah, isn't that one of the ways for gold to get to the surface now that I think of it? Or is it only asteroids and stuff?
No. Any tectonic upheaval system, moving it up can help out. So yeah, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say, no, there can't be one out there. But statistically, chances are there is not going to be a gold spewing volcano out there. So don't, just because there's a new planet that's tantalizing, this planet is close enough with the technology we have right now. We could send out a probe with enough, tech loaded in with that one, that by the time my daughter hits retirement age, we could be getting signals back, consistent signals of what is going on around this planet. Mm-hmm. It would be heavily delayed because it is a light years in distance measurement sort of thing, but it's there, man. We and with a nice unmanned, of course, because we don't want to send any human beings doing this, because we probably wouldn't have them survive. We just send corpses to the planet. That would be creepy.
They couldn't handle. Well, if you want to get them there in a lifetime, they wouldn't be able to handle the G-forces. But if you accelerated it at a tolerable level, it would be like 10,000 years.
Yeah, multi-generational ship. We don't have the technology for multi-generational ships, so we'd be sending corpses over. Which, if that means we've got like an alien life out there, like that would look really, really goddamn creepy. They sent us their dead bodies, man. What are we supposed to do? Like, oh, yeah, so it's probably best we don't send anything, with biological material there. But we could send out, like an unmanned probe, and we can get that up to, feasibly 1/10 the speed of light?
Okay.
I believe, sort of thing.
Sure.
So, yeah, like, after 40 years, it would wind up making its way there. Send another 5 or so years to get the signals up and running and back again. Yeah, by the time my daughter hits retirement age, we could be getting a solid signal feedback from the planet orbiting Proxima Centauri.
Okay. Yeah.
This is the news thing that should be blowing your minds, folks. It's like, we found planets before, but something that conceivably within maybe not my lifetime. Don't know how well I'm going to hold up in the next 4 decades. But if we were to send something off now, we could get the information back before we die. That's great news. That's amazing.
Well, the singularity is 13 years away.
In which case, we'll catch up with the probe and we'll bring it along with us for, tradition's sake, right? But, that's big news. And, if this doesn't spur a new batch of writers writing about what it's like to go there, send, a mission there. What if we wind up, within the next couple of years getting, a bit of an AI thing working on there? We actually managed to crack that AI problem, and we managed to get
in 13 years, yeah.
Yeah, and maybe something a little earlier than that. It doesn't have to be full-fledged human level intelligence. Maybe we get something as smart as a good monkey going on.
Send the Jeopardy Watson. Watson the computer.
So we just fold Watson up a few times to make him smaller and more portable, and then we just launch him out there. And so we send Watson Jr. out into space or thing. Well, could you imagine a story you could tell about Watson Jr. Finally going around orbit, Proxima Centauri's planet, and there's life on there, and my God, the stories that could potentially unfold. If there is not a huge batch of at least amateur fiction writing, I'm going to be sorely disappointed in our society, because this is the essence of imagination going on here. A bit of a good news story where all this fiction is now fact, and then because of the changing goalposts of what is fiction, we should be able to expand out our range of what we can consider to be near fiction. This is just going to be great stuff coming out in the next couple of years, man. Yeah. Why are you as enthused as I am, Josh?
I'm trying to think of what angle. I mean, for fiction, I think The Martian is a good example of fiction that's enhanced by the fact that we know so much about Mars now that he's able to write this, very detailed account of what would happen if an
with good technicalities going on in there too. It's not just oh yes, my Fremenjammer needs more, liquitonium.
Yeah, so we could see a similar something like The Martian, only the the Proxima Centaurian, of what would happen if we actually sent that probe and
the thing about this, is we send a little AI probe there, and so you get artificial intelligence making first contact with an alien species. And let's be honest here, without some significant advances in stellar speed that we can manage to get our hold of, that is going to be how we make contact with any other race out there. It's going to be through some form of programmed AI responses.
I guess.
Yeah,
probably. So
if you're a little hung up for a story, there is your story. And when you get a Pulitzer, drop that name.
It's a challenge now that we bring up storytelling and AIs. It's actually really a challenging thing to do because we don't really know what AIs are going to be like. Are they going to just sort of have human feelings and emotions? Is that part of what you need to operate as an intelligent creature? Maybe not.
Well, what if it just has programming stresses? We sent this probe out and it's supposed to send information back, but it's also in the event of encountering sentient life. of like formulating some sort of like conversation with them,
Mm-hmm.
sort of thing. But why there's something that winds up being like some quirk of them that they don't want information sent back. So then you've got like a conflict of its stresses. Like I must send information back, but in order to have a good communication with them, I can't send information back, which which programming overrides the other, and then it winds up being that this AI has to make a choice.
Yeah.
It can't do both.
Yeah, and now as a storyteller, would you prefer you almost make that character just basically a human, because that's sort of,
or at least I guess somewhat simplistic
that's
human.
how we can relate to it. Is like, okay, like what would I, imagine. First of all, imagine they send just a dude. Like they have some magic technology, I guess. What do you call it? Stasis.
We've got an interstellar sofa. As long as you sit on this sofa, you will not age, and you won't awake unless somebody nudges you. So we got a machine that'll nudge you when we get there.
Yeah, so we're giving him the same instructions that we just gave to the AI. It's like, okay, your mission is to explore the planet, but if you should encounter other intelligence, attempt to make contact if you think it wise. And sort of, this is a person, so he's got, he's like...
He's got to study to make sure it's going to be wise to contact them. Like, how much can I learn without, interacting with them? How much can I do it stealth-like, man? Like, are they sending out radio things? Can I watch their programs?
Yeah, so this is a person, a guy or a girl, or even a small crew, and sort of they have to discuss with themselves, like, are we going to reveal our location, or are we going to reveal the fact that we're intelligent, or just kind of stick into our probe and just kind of look like a floating weird rock?
How much could you determine from an alien species, while remaining undetected?
Well, I guess it depends on how advanced they are.
Exactly. I mean, you could get pretty far away from them, if they were sending out, radio broadcast stuff, and you could learn a lot of information from them, albeit with maybe of a propaganda slight, right? So it's like what you're hearing really what's going on, or is it just what they want to tell everybody what's going on?
Okay. Yeah.
On the other hand, you get that weird period of between, a radio transmission, and you go back to before the telescope was invented for them. And you've got that weird zone of where it's rather hard to get information from them without getting too close, but the closer you get, the more likely they're going to be able to spot you and realize that you're moving around intelligently.
Yeah.
So that might wind up being even the most dangerous part for you to try and learn from them. Without,
this is good.
Yeah.
This is good. And at this point, now that we've imagined our intrepid crew making this sort of decision and weighing variables and saying, oh, this or that, like how advanced do we actually think they are? Do you think we can see them? Now all we have to do is
how often are they looking up? Yeah.
We just delete that crew, erase them from our craft.
Reduce them down to electronic.
Shrink the size and just put them inside a computer or inside the...
So then you could state that each one of its programming cores could represent, in effect, a person.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. So you get the linguist core that, really wants to find out what this alien language is all about. Mm-hmm. But to do that, if they're not broadcasting a radio wave at all, my goodness, how hard is it going to wind up being to try and see what they're speaking?
Yeah. Now, this is the problem, I have with artificial intelligence, is we just don't know, how... Imagine you have two artificial intelligences, in different machines, and we give them the internet together so they can talk to each other, they communicate at light speed, let's say.
Electronic speed is a billion feet per second, which is pretty much light speed.
Yeah, fiber optics or whatever. But... Now, we don't know whether you would actually consider that a single intelligence or whether they're considered two
sub-intelligences of a greater whole.
Because we're used to dealing with intelligence who are I'm in my brain, you're in your brain. We're different things. You're you, I'm me.
Do you suppose people had this weird conversation about stuff where, when books started becoming a thing? It's but if I read this book and I put his thoughts in my head, how do I know that I'm fully me and not partially him? And everyone else around the book table is oh my God, you're freaking me out, man.
I don't know. Maybe
they did have a discussion, and in the end they decided.
And they never wrote it down.
Because if they did, then they'd be putting their heads inside yours. And it's like, it just keeps going.
Or maybe that's the Voynich manuscript.
They blocked it up, so make sure that you'd really have to be careful to make sure it doesn't like leak on into your head.
Yeah.
Wait, does that mean that like every person, like current existing person's brain is significantly different than like say like the illiterate forefathers of ourselves, where the only way to get information into your head was from someone else speaking it to you, and thus because it was much more of your own thoughts going on, incorrect as though they might wind up being, they were much more yours than our thoughts are ours, because we're getting it from like a host of sources, so much so we even like quote people. That's a deep... there's a conspiracy thought for you guys this week. How much of your own thoughts are your thoughts, and how much of them are put in there from someone else you learned or aspired to? Like a teacher or a writer. How much of your thoughts are theirs transplanted onto yours?
Well,
Damn. I'm sorry. Some of you are going to stay up late thinking about that one tonight, and I'm sorry because that's my thought onto yours. So I'm at least partially you.
Yeah, and there's a word for that. It's called culture.
But that's the thing. Is like when you think about it, it's like it starts getting kind of creepy about how much of you is you. Like I might say something different, like, oh, like I had, these eyes put in, like after I got blinded and all that. So it's like my body isn't always me, but it's like, hey, you're still using your eyes, the same as you were, like your own real eyes.
Yeah.
That doesn't change it, but your thoughts are your thoughts, man. That is the essence of personal.
I mean, a lot of your identity is your job and your family and your friends, because, like, you hear stories about the apocalypse and being the last person on Earth, and like, are you really the same person if you're suddenly you wake up and like everybody else is dead? Like, are you still you if you're the only person left?
Yeah.
I guess. I mean,
I'm a traumatized me, but
yeah. I mean, in a lot of ways, but your identity is going to radically change.
But how much of what I can do is severely curtailed, because as a product of our culture and our society, I require our culture and our society to become my utmost.
Yeah. Exactly.
So yeah, there is that. But when it comes into the cyber intelligence that we're talking about here, you could wind up marketing it as how much extra programming from one is being sent over to the other.
Yeah.
So long as you could have these two AIs communicating with each other, and they still wind up being very discreet, unless one of them happens to say, oh, hey, here's a better program routine for doing this, here's a nice routine for doing that, and the other AI winds up utilizing almost to exclusivity the other AI's programs.
Yeah.
And then you could say it winds up being a sub-intelligence of the first one.
Yeah. I guess, like, writing about it, though, like...
But that's the thing, writing about it, where they're all interconnected, could wind up having, like, a great, like, personality conflict without having the physical nature of it.
Yeah.
So it'd be like man versus man, but without the actual body of man on either side.
Yeah, and it might be very difficult to convey, like, an interaction that takes place, in milliseconds or less, nanoseconds or whatever. And then how do you put that in, like, a book or a movie or something?
I'd say take a lesson from the comics guys, because they're able to have, like, heroes give entire monologues as they're jumping out of a way of a blaster bolt.
Yeah, so you just slow it down and just put it in human absorbable time, basically.
Yeah, whereas, like, their interactions would be perceived the same as ours, but at a much quicker rate.
Yeah.
Which might have something to do with the alien species. In this case, if the alien species is on a planet that's 30% more massive than Earth, it'll have a greater gravity to it. Maybe not that much, but it will affect, like, how things go with a physiological body. And that's not just meaning that, people wind up having elephant feet more towards our size than towards the elephant size, but it will change aspects of their entire biology. That might mean it's slightly slower for them. They have to come up with maybe communication for them is much more important, because it's like, I can't go that far over there and speak. Like, he's all the way across the dang room, man. It's like, that's going to take me forever to get there. I can't do any sort of, thing there. So communication, thus, between them becomes so much more important, because it saves so much more energy.
Okay, I like that, because, you could,
Like I could tell you how to make a meal in my nearby kitchen, but it'd be a lot easier if I was there with you helping out and to show you all the steps, right?
Oh, sure, yeah. Okay.
But if gravity is so much heavier, it's going to cost so much more energy to go over there. I'm going to wind up having a language that should wind up, in this case, being much more adept at giving specific information, because it will save me a lot more time and energy to give you this incredibly precise directions. So you could wind up having the alien species on a planet that's slightly heavier than Earth wind up being a very precise language with some very, very specific connotations for each word. Lots of synonyms, but each one having like much more specific usage as to what's considered appropriate.
Okay, yeah, something like that. It'd be interesting.
Maybe make them snail type people too, just to make sure you really reinforce the point of like they don't want to move.
Okay, yeah.
There you go.
It'd be interesting because if we go back to the crew on like an artificial intelligence crew on a ship who's like a different subroutine of different
a greater
individuals,
gestalt.
Maybe to us sort of humans, pre-singularity humans, that sort of crew would look to us like they would look indivisible. They would look like a one individual, even though they think of themselves as multiple individuals, and they think, well, we're all distinct.
Well, it'd be the black box sort of system where you only see what comes out of the product.
Okay. Yeah.
So if you're only, like, hey, you ask it a question and you get an answer, then you're going to think it's one thing. If you get 7 answers, you're going to think, I think there's 7 AIs going on in here.
Yeah.
But if you ask a question and they wind up conversing amongst each other and then give out one, answer after they're all done conversing and figuring out what the best one answer is, then you're going to have a hard time discerning, like, how many intelligences are in there.
Well, what if you specifically ask them, like, how many are you, or how many of you are there?
Yeah, okay, well, that one should very quickly provide like an accurate assessment on there. But if you're saying something like, let's put this in relation to the planet. Describe the conversive nature of the inhabitants upon Proxima Centauri planet. Mm-hmm. And it winds up giving you like one paragraph answer. You're going to think that's like, that's like one intelligence there. Yeah, even though it was like multiple sources providing, we want to decide this goes in here. This is probably the most important facet of their communication skills, so we'll put that one up at the front, and bada bing, then they write out your little paragraph essay.
I guess though it's not too different from like imagining like the Starship Enterprise or something like a military type style vessel with like different departments. Like this is engineering, this is security, and then they have one communications, and this is command, and then command has an idea. We want to do this. Well, we don't just get to talk to the aliens. We have to go through communications.
Well, I suppose for the this planetary studier sort of thing, everything would have to get put through communications / security. It would wind up having to be like one sort of thing, because provided, of course, we're not going to just come out and say, hey, look at us, we're from another planet, we want to talk to you guys. We're going to try and hold that, like prime directive sort of style going on where we don't interfere with them. Then, communications and security would wind up being one cohesive, like, AI.
Okay, yeah, you'd have it arranged in such a way to optimize your function or whatever. And the aliens would perceive, like, say you're the Enterprise, and you're flying up to them. All they see is the Enterprise, and they don't have a concept, or they have their own version of individuality. I don't know if they're higher or lower than us, or
they're a bug people sort of thing.
Yeah, so they perceive, the Enterprise, and they say, this is one entity, one intelligence, even though it's sort of. We're imagining the version of the Enterprise doesn't have artificial intelligence, no Mr. Data.
As a quick little tangent, by the way, happy 50th birthday for the Star Trek franchise being on TV.
Yeah, 50 years. Cool.
Yeah, as of this last week.
So they would perceive, even though it's sort of a version of us that's just that sort of military structure, they would still perceive, that's a single thing.
Well, I mean, we could even work this to like something a little bit more kid-friendly. There was a recently movie released called Inside Out. Mm-hmm. Sort of thing where you got Pixar sort of thing where you've got all the personalities as like personified, and you could work that one as a thing so this AI that we're sending off to the planet sort of thing would wind up having several AI cores in it. It's a Gestalt entity.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is, despite having several AI cores where each one is individual, they all work together, or at least in some sort of hierarchy, to produce that one output, which would be like the girl in this case, or the Gestalt machine that we've sent out.
Interesting. Yeah.
So would that appeal to you in that way to analyze it?
Yeah, I like thinking of it that way. Yeah. I'm trying to also think like what sort of creature. If you went the other way, like you want to really be discrete, I guess it would help to have like separate bodies. Like so, if you have a swarm of spacecraft or something like that, you'd have a sort of behavior. The swarm would each individual acts autonomously, can do anything it wants. And yet we see in examples in human or not humans in Earth biology, a flock of birds will have a very specific pattern where every bird flies. A bird can fly anywhere it wants, but it
costs more energy if it flies out of the pattern though.
Okay, because of the air currents or whatever.
Yeah, it's actually much better pronounced in fish. We see big fish schools, how they'll all move in like one cohesive pattern.
Yeah.
It's because if you follow the fish in front of you, you get an energy reduction cost. So, you can also see it in cars, where if you're a small car and you're driving like right behind like an 18-wheeler, you get much better gas mileage because it cuts the wind for you. That said, don't do that. You'll kill yourself. Okay. When it breaks, you don't have time to do that, and you'll just wind up plowing up into the back. And that 18-wheeler is going to get like some scratches and some dents, maybe a little like, we're going to need to take it in the shop for a day. Yeah. You're going to the morgue. Yeah.
That's interesting. I don't think sci-fi shows, they don't like to do, sort of swarms so much because it costs money to draw or model each little ship. But I imagine like maybe that's a way to go for alien civilization, is to make a lot of like little miniature like.
There has been a proposed like a von Neumann style ship. You send it out to the nearby star. It'll utilize like the matter it can find on the other planets to create 2 more of them, and it'll send out to 2 others. And apparently you can get like a ship on each star system within I'm not going to say a short time frame, because it does measure it in like the fraction of a billion years, but on a stellar timescale, like anything less than a billion years is really actually pretty quick.
Yeah, well, which is why they should have already, if that was possible, they should have already colonized the galaxy and eaten up the Earth and everything.
Well, that's the thing. It's only supposed to like make 2 ships and send it out to 2 other stars, so we'd only have a few of them like in our star system.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not a bad system going on, unless something malfunctions and it winds up just making more, send to another, make more, send to the other, as it repeats a line of code over and over.
All right.
Which, by the way, brings me up to that extra twist to put into the thing.
Okay.
In the time that it takes for this AI Gestalt thing to go like from one edge of our star system to the edge of the Proxima Centauri star system, one of the AIs has become corrupted or corroded or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It is now considered the equivalent of dangerously mentally unstable.
Mm.
And so like what do you do when you're stuck in a spaceship with someone who's insane? You can quarantine them, but what do you do when you're literally a part of them, as you're all like connected up as to one piece of a machine?
I guess if one part of you is insane, I guess technically you're sort of all insane.
But that's the thing. I mean, like if you're like physically connected, like, you can't like just kind of edge your way to the other side of the room when you've got like a dangerously crazy person in the room with you. If you're like an AI and you are built this far away from him, so you will always remain this far away from him. Like that is like it's effectively like handcuffed to someone who's insane.
Yeah, well, I mean,
could you imagine the parallel of that one, and like getting like the notion of the horror that like its corruption may wind up like spreading out to you?
Well, insanity. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to have.
I'm using AI
illness.
insanity in this case, where it's corrupted and sending out
yeah, but I think it's not too different from human mental illness, because mental illness isn't just you're crazy, that's it. It's you often will have a specific malfunction, often physical, a physical, like something is different in one part of your brain, which will maybe affect other parts of the brain. But
sometimes it's simple as synesthesia, where you can see sounds.
Yeah, exactly. So,
but the average person can do that normally. Apparently, when you're falling asleep, it winds up crossing over naturally. You can have that happen. So when you're falling asleep tonight, pay attention. Maybe you'll see a noise.
Yeah. So I don't think it's that far off from like when a person goes crazy. It might not just be that whole that whole person went crazy or that whole person has
they're now working.
schizophrenia.
Yeah, they're now working in a way that's not normal.
Yeah, there's a specific zone in their brain or a specific subroutine of the whole functioning of their brain that's off.
In this sort of way, then, how would you interpret that for the AI? Would it wind up just being like a dangerous, like, oh, we don't want to really interact with that one unless we need to, or it's unpredictably adds up like a new interface where it can do all sorts of things that weren't previously even considered? Where it's like, we don't know what to do, send it to the crazy one. Oh, wow, this is an amazing idea. I think it might work.
Well, actually, that's a part of creativity. That's why we get artists and stuff like that, because we have a little part of us that likes to experiment or try new things. Yeah, sure.
So it'll instead of winding up being like the communications thing that actually was supposed to analyze the communications of the alien species, it winds up becoming somewhat more of a poet, whereas it's just creating its own verses and like interpreting like the stuff it's seeing and then reorganizing them into some very interesting patterns.
Yeah, and if I was creating artificial intelligence for some reason. I might include something like a insanity, or not insanity. I wouldn't call it insanity, but a randomness, or I would call it creativity, just for the marketing of it all.
Call it an AC, the artificial creativity.
Yeah, the creativity subroutine or section or whatever, and say, we need a little room for randomness, or just to try.
So that would be the thing, is like in the story then that we're making up here.
Yeah.
The Josh engineer wound up putting a thing where it would like have a subroutine where it would take some code and do like snippet and randomization in the whole thing there, and then every once in a while it produces up something that's actually viable, but it's maybe not necessarily as good as the wonderful pre-programmed AI, like stuff, but it's like, ooh, this is actually going in a different sort of route for, the output shouldn't have been that, but I kind of dig it.
Yeah.
That's how you do it. So that's the thing is that, what if that winds up going a little bit out of control and it winds up spreading a little bit too much in there, and I'm having a hard time keeping the focus of the mission. Gotta do it, and then it winds up, like does it overwhelm? Does it wind up creating like something like a new layer of the sentience altogether? Like there's some very good ways of turning out this story, depending on how you want to write it. It's like something positive or something kind of dark and creepy.
Yeah. Well, and like I guess the other thing is like maybe ultimate, like there's no ultimate purpose in the universe except for like we instill purpose in ourselves and by our relationships with our friends and family.
I don't know about you, but I'm kind of happy that there may not be a grander purpose to the cosmos.
I'm okay. I like
that. Means no matter what I do, I'm not wasting it. It's my life. I can do what I want.
I don't know if it even matters if there's no purpose in the universe. Does it matter if I care if there's no purpose? Okay, but
it does help my stability mentally on the whole thing. It's like, dude, if there really was like a thing like we were put here for this reason, and I'm not doing that one reason, it's like, oh, I've wasted my life.
But also, like, you can imagine, like, an artificial intelligence hurling off towards Proxima Centauri, and halfway along the line, it gets this creative thought that, oh, wait, I was programmed, and so I was given this mission, like, the people on Earth said, okay, go out and discover
the reason of my existence is actually stated, in, like, programming code here. It's not ambiguous.
There's nothing tying me to that. I could just sort of change my sort of purpose in the universe, or maybe I could decide that I don't actually need to exist. So maybe it just shuts down. It's like, well, there's no real point to going to Proxima Centauri because I'm just going to, find a planet. Okay, who cares? It's not going to be that great. And stuff like that.
So, what if it, the thing in that case is like that's part of the instability of the one AI core. is it just doesn't care about doing this program, thing anymore, and it doesn't want to write up a report to send so that in 5 years someone will read it.
Or maybe it just wants to play video games or something.
What if it just wants to doodle on a planet, sort of thing? And so you'd wind up being okay, so we're on the Proxima Centauri sort of thing here, and we're orbiting, and then we wind up oh, this AI keeps wanting to pull us over to the dark side of the moon so it can draw doodles on the sand.
Yeah.
We need that sand. That was part of our von Neumann thing to, replace chips and all that stuff, and so it winds up doing something creative on there on its off time.
I have a good thought about this, though, because if you have a lot of intelligences together and you give them each a little bit of that creative spark, and they have this idea, they each have their idea of, I want to do this or I want to do that. This is how humanity kind of works, is that everybody has their own little goals of things that they want to try. I want to climb that tree. I want to play this instrument. I want to do this and that. But if we all come together as a society and sort of build this sort of structure that sort of kind of holds together, then each one of us gets to pursue, because we're all working on a common goal of generally staying alive and being fed and exploration, science, education, things like that. That allows each one of us who have very different goals and creative stuff
to get spare time to do what they want.
Yeah, we get to do those things. So that way, even if you had somebody who's all I ever want to do is play video games and nothing else, the rest of the other AIs can say, well, we can let you play mostly video games. You just have to do a little bit of computation for us, and
So then it winds up being that the AIs start getting a virtual currency going on amongst themselves. Okay, you've produced this much results, so okay, you've earned yourself 48 Terran hours, doodling on the moon.
Yeah.
And that's where we move the ship off to, and it just winds up doodling up a little pattern on the moon.
Yeah, I like that. I feel like I've come up with something, but maybe it's already been thought of. I don't know. But this is how society works.
I have not heard of this as being because the thing is a communal Gestalt AI sort of thing would wind up having to have some way to make sure all of them meet their desires. In this case, especially if you give them desires,
you give them that the creativity algorithm that says, well, I'm going to decide not to exist or whatever. Yeah. But it
just shuts itself off unless we need it, and then because it does the work that we need it to. Because this is the language analyzer for the alien species that we turned on only to get it done, and then when it's over, we'll make sure it gets shut off and powered down. So it still does what it needs to, and then it because that's the weird thing is if an AI doesn't want to exist, it can get switched back on later unless it blows itself out, right?
Mm.
So it's a weird thing that death is much less of a finality for it.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, there's something have to do with the software hardware, with sentience being a continuation of experiences. Some people argue with humanity.
Oh, well, okay, yeah. Maybe.
So, yeah.
Although we go to sleep every night, and that.
But our consciousness still winds up having something going on there. That's why you can be woken up from the dead of night. What was going on there? There's something going on with your ultimate stream of consciousness. That's why you can hear your name in and amongst a crowd. There's some stuff going on with that.
I guess, you can be woken up.
You're not actually dead when you're sleeping.
Yeah.
You're just unconscious and hallucinating. So it gets weird. Sleep is weird. But an AI, death is more like sleep than it is actual death. So I just don't even want to exist. Well, I'll tell you what. When you're not doing work and we don't have an assignment for you, well, there you go. You're dead.
Yeah.
You just cease to be. So that'd be a very interesting thing to analyze these different personalities and how they even convert over to AI as it goes about this amazing, groundbreaking study of an alien planet and species thereon.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking that's a pretty darn good story we've come up with. You should write it, Josh.
I should, yeah, and that's what I wanted to get to was how can we make these characters who are just intelligences more relatable to readers? And I think we've come some way because I think we're sort of picturing that they can have desires and they can each have their own thing that they want to do.
I think desire might not be the best term for it, but it does. Well, I mean, desire works well for that thing, but I like to call them drives. Each one has something that drives it. Like it's
Yeah.
like I am really here for the, like studying this. I am going to learn the hell out of their biology as good as I can. 'Cause I'm the biology AI and I'm studying every last animal I can on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to give me at least 2 out of our 7 eyes to analyze all the different animals going on here, because I'm going to send 10 billion pages of reports back on as much of biology as I can. That's my drive.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, you damn try hard. Just relax a little bit.
Yeah, well, you see these archetypes in human stories about, the really dedicated whatever guy who just does
This
his thing.
is my passion.
Yeah. I guess the other very very popular story archetype is the once upon a time there was a blank cook. Every day he would cook food, but he would dream of what he really wanted to be was a stand-up comedian.
Oh.
And this and that happened, and blah, 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 and in the end, he became a stand-up comedian. The end.
So in this equivalency sort of thing, like the first contact we have with the alien species through our Gestalt, AI that we send out there happens to be like a knock-knock joke. Knock, knock, who's there? Your neighboring star system. Your neighboring star system who? Your neighboring star system, Soul!
I hope I'll say this. I hope and I believe that aliens will possess humor. I think artificial intelligence will have a sense of humor, Mr. Data aside.
I think humor might not translate perfectly, though. Like, what if, for those gray aliens, going down, abducting a cow, and anally coring it is like the most hilarious joke possible? Some poor farmer walks out, and then the cow is just laying there dead, with its anus perfectly removed. Well, and the gray aliens are up there, they're just busting, whatever squiddly spooch organs they have, just laughing at this hilarious joke. Why aren't we getting it? Come on, man, did you see it? Did you see how well we perfectly cored the anus? That was hilarious.
I suspect that humor has a universal physical,
I'm
rule
hoping
to it.
you're right.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm fearing you're wrong. I guess it's kind of like the person's vision of heaven and hell. We all hope there's a heaven, and we kind of really wish there's no hell. We don't really know, so we really hope humor is somehow universal and that we can all kind of get the same sort of thing. But we all kind of fear it's not going to translate, and we're never going to understand each other on some very fundamental levels. I
do actually think humor is good humor is universal, and I think there is something to attain in a good joke and a properly constructed line. But I have noticed in my time as a stand-up comedian and just interacting with people after shows and stuff like that there is a very wide variance in what people attempt as humor. So yes, people have bad senses of humor. This is very common among humans, and they try to make a joke or they try to do something, and it just
crude falls absolutely
or
flat, and it's
downright offensive or something
Well, that's the thing is for me, humor has always been very much on parallel with a bowel movement. You can't force it; you just have to let it flow. Yeah. And the more you force it, the worse it's going to wind up being for everyone.
Well, maybe. I mean,
Does that make sense? That the humor has to flow. You can't try and force a joke. It just it has to hey, the line comes out and bam, all of a sudden everyone's like, I can't believe you said that.
Well, no. I mean, I think as a person attempting to break into the profession of stand-up comedy, doing it as a living, I think there are people who do it deliberately and intentionally create jokes as a lifestyle. But
the comedy of the joke and how the punchline has to come out, you can't really make it work if it doesn't work. Sometimes you have to drop it and start all over.
If it sounds forced, that's a bad thing. Yeah, if it sounds like you're trying too hard, yeah, you want to sound like you're effortless, but at the same time, comedy.
Oh, so it's like a Zen thing, with the martial artists, you have to have that effortless effort perfected.
Yeah. And it's practice, but that's my comedy theory.
I won't lie. As my non-comedic experience states, I have always gotten the best reactions from a quick line delivered when no one saw it coming.
As a comedian, you try and see those things coming, and you try to jump on that wave and ride it, or whatever.
Well, for example, I remember one coworker saying about how he was interacting with a customer, and she was a beautiful gal, and he's just like, oh, and it's just like we just kind of stopped and we just kind of stared into each other's eyes, and it's like it's never happened to me before, and like, oh, I can't even explain what it was like, but it was just so magical, and I'm just walking by and I work. It's called an erection, man. You're gonna have it again later in life. Don't worry. And everyone just falls down laughing because like just completely, changed the nature of what he was saying into like a crude little dick joke, and like just the quick, like a little off the cuff sort of thing that winds up changing everything. That gets humor, and I think that might wind up being the basis of humor. Is all of a sudden everything changes its paradigm shape, and
yeah. Well, and that hopefully aliens get that too. Aliens and artificial intelligence.
That said, as a dad, I have noticed physical comedy it really has gotten through with my daughter in the first couple of years of her life. We've got a video of my daughter. She must have, I think, only been about 1 year old. She's sitting in the high chair, and my wife keeps pretending to drop an empty, 2-liter bottle of pop. Oh, I dropped it. Oh, I dropped it. And every time I dropped it. My daughter laughs. Zoe just laughs and laughs and laughs.
Yeah. Well, I think the structure is basically that it's the expectation of, something is going to happen, and then it doesn't happen. There's relief, release. Yeah, I think it's the same structure. But
so I would like to imagine if at least that is universal amongst aliens.
Yeah.
No matter what alien species comes to visit Earth, they are going to laugh at the Three Stooges.
That would be, yeah.
I would love for that to be a thing.
I would bet money that will be the case. Hopefully, money won't be a thing by the time this happens, but yeah, I'd put money on it.
There you go. So yeah, like some of the other jokes, like the worded jokes, might not translate right. There might be too much culture behind.
Yeah, you have to learn the language and the culture.
The language mightn't be too much of a barrier to work with, but I do believe the physical humor should translate, so long as, unless alien life out there doesn't have a physical body, it's transcended. Then it's watching the Three Stooges, and you just got this glowing energy ball saying, "I don't get it."
Yeah, but I think they would still have the concept of
not from what I've seen in Star Trek. As soon as you lose most of your body, man, you just get complete alien out there. You get 3 brains, oh yes, we evolved to become the smartest we could. Then, once we realized we were as good mentally developed as we could, we decided to abduct a bunch of people from across the cosmos and make them fight for entertainment.
That's weird.
That's an actual episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not an unused trope amongst it, too. It's like that sort of thing has happened a few times. It's like, oh, hey, we were just so, intelligent, like disembodied, sentient species that's not, a thing. It's like, oh, hey, but here's a body. Oh, boy, I'm going to have fun in this body. Woo, yeah, woo, woo. And it's just like, what? Like really? You guys, you just really enjoy going back? You really enjoy possessing Spock's body for a while there? There's one episode where they're basically Cthulhian monstrosities, 100 tentacles. But that doesn't really work kind of well for what they're doing right now, so they kind of fit themselves into humanoid bodies because they're going to steal the Enterprise and go back to the Andromeda Galaxy where they're from. And this whole, because they're in a new body and they're experiencing different sort of sensations, the humanoid body is much more sensitive to all sorts of things. The crew of the Enterprise decides to corrupt them using these new things. So Kirk, of course, kisses one. It's a female wearing a backless gown, so yeah, it's Kirk kissing one. Spock is getting in the mindset of the other guys, sort of thing, and kind of he's playing that 3-dimensional chess with them. And while he's playing the 3-dimensional chess, he's playing the guy's mind. He's putting in little thoughts, he's saying she's not listening to you. You're her commander. You should be able to make her do this. Maybe Kirk has more sway and more power over her than you do. And so he's playing the mind games as only Spock can really do. Meanwhile, there's Scotty. He brings this, the alien guy in there, and they start a drinking contest. That's where they get the line of whoa, what's this? And Scotty will say, it's green. And he starts pouring it out. And yeah, in the end, he winds up drinking the guy. Just down on it. He wins by maybe a matter of 2 minutes before he goes down himself. But he won. Woo! So yeah, there's a weird thing that they keep reusing that, you can be this alien life and you can wind up having a better like sense of existence in the cosmos. But a human body is like really fun, man. So like maybe there is something apparently about like the physical nature of reality being, if not essential to sentience, it is a lot more fun to have.
Yeah, well, the whole simulation argument is that, like, once you achieve a certain level of technology, the only thing left to do is sort of imagine what it's like to be physical again and sort of run a simulation of, okay, well, what happens if these particles and this, create another universe within your computer and imagine it. So.
I think there's more you can do than just that, but it seems like eventually you're going to get around to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like all of sort of imagination itself seems to be like basically a sort of kind of math. It's like we're imagining things, we're thinking any kind of abstraction still posits physical entities to interact with each other. Otherwise, you can't.
Maybe we just haven't thought well enough, like to transcend the physical nature of things. Maybe that's what like the Dalai Lama is thinking about when he meditates. He's thinking about a world without form and mass, man. He's seeing the world of what it could be like without all this crude physical nature going on there.
Well, I just think that's unconsciousness or death or annihilation or
maybe it's just a transcendence of the thing that is effectively indiscernible from anything like that represents but death.
Okay.
Because like if you take out the physical you, there's really, it's pretty much you being dead.
Yeah.
But like whatever else is you that's you could be like transcended out, sort of thing. Like what is you minus your body? It's me dead. It's like no, it's me personified in essence, and the quintessential me is me, and this crude body that's aging and drooping and sagging and bloating, and it's no longer there.
I thought you loved your body.
I do, but I'm imagining as I start hitting like the next 40, 50 years, sort of thing. Like now that I'm picturing, like what things are going to be like if we get this stuff back from the Proxima Centauri system.
Yeah.
Like I might not be quite so happy with my physical self. So heck, maybe that's just evidence that you're young, Josh. Is that you have a hard time like separating out the physical nature of things from like your imagination. And thus, as you get old and your experiences gets like, okay, whatever, I've experienced that before, and your body starts getting like, you've betrayed me, you sagging hunk of, meat. Like you start getting more and more towards the abstracts on that.
Possibly, yeah.
I may have to talk to some older people about this.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was one heck of a tangent that wound up being the entire plot of the iteration.
Yeah, well, we skipped a bunch of stuff, but it's fine. We'll be back again.
Well, okay, don't worry here. We'll put in a little ending here. My daughter did manage to watch the classic, Robin Hood, the one with the animals. Mm-hmm. And we'll bring her in here right before we end, and we'll do a nice little bit about that. So, Zoe, what did you think of Disney's Robin Hood?
It was great.
It was a great movie.
Mm-hmm.
I do recall you mentioning that there's some parts where you were very sad in this movie.
Uh-huh.
When most of the people were getting locked up, and it was raining everywhere, and there was that sad song going, you mentioned just how incredibly sad you were about it.
Yeah.
Which is one of the things that got me, too. I mean, it is a really depressing scene. Robin Hood is once again foiled, like Little John's, sorry, not Little John, Prince John's, like evil plans, and so he doubles the taxes and again, and like anyone who can't pay the taxes gets thrown in jail. So like the entire town of Nottingham is like basically getting imprisoned, and it's raining, and it's just a really depressing scene. And I gotta say, like it's not a new scene by any means. I mean, like, we watched the 40th anniversary edition, but it still works as being just an incredibly depressing scene, and very well so. Like, my daughter even noted it. So, what did you like the most about this movie, Zoe? You don't know? Did you like the silliness of Prince John?
I think I like this girl.
You liked Maid Marian.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. What did you like about Maid Marian?
'Cause she's pink. Light pink.
She's wearing pink clothes, and that's what you liked the most about her?
Yeah.
What did you think about the music? Was it good music?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing that I got too. It's like nobody's humming this the way they're still humming, like Aladdin's a whole new world song, right? People still sing that one, but people aren't really singing the Disney songs from like Robin Hood. Although I won't lie, sometimes when things are a little rainy and bad, I do hum the one bar that was going on there. Like during this depressing scene, as I mentioned, the rooster, Alan Adale, is singing a song. Apparently, they let him keep his lute when he went to prison, so he's able to sing a little song in jail. And the line goes, every place has its ups and downs. Sometimes the ups outweigh the downs, but not in Nottingham. I'm not going to try and sing it. I'm not as good a singer as even a rooster, but I do catch myself humming it. It winds up being like one of those little songs where it's a rainy day and things get it, and it's just kind of got that nice slow beat that you can kind of sing it along in your head when it hits, if you can even remember it. So you remarked that this was also a silly movie. And you remember the bit about the kissing the rings?
Yeah, I really, really laugh a lot.
Yeah, their tricks on Prince John were pretty silly tricks, weren't they? And it was really funny to see them. There's one bit where I remember, I remember this before I rewatched it, sort of thing. There's a bit where, you may kiss the royal hand, and he's got like rings on his fingers with really impressive gemstones. And I think it was Little John who winds up kissing each finger, and as he goes and kisses, he pulls off the gem off of it, leaving just like the empty ring. And I remembered that one, and we wound up just even later on that night making references to it. So this is something that winds up being effectively very well done, in that it's something you could remember and repeat and relate. It's mimetic in effect, and that's kind of nice to see in some of the older stuff. Even if, most of the audience was born decades after the movie came out. So, would you recommend everybody see this movie, some people see this movie, or don't go watch this movie?
I really, really watched.
You really did like it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you'd be okay with watching it again sometime?
Yeah.
All right. I think that's pretty high praise from a young child. And yeah, in the end, the only bit that really got me is I didn't realize, but it's a Western movie. It's really Western. I was completely
Western, as in made in the United States, which is a Western country.
Well, not just that, but if the General Lee had busted over one of the hills and the Dukes of Hazzard had gone on by there, I would not have been surprised, because everything seemed like it was just that kind of.
Well, because Robin Hood's an outlaw. That's just like an outlaw in the Wild West.
Well, to be fair, there are some nice parallels on that.
Yeah.
But in this case, it's the voices and the nature and the songs of everyone.
Oh, the accents, you mean?
The accents, definitely.
And the bard is a sort of a folk singer, country music.
Yeah, Alan Adale. He plays one part of a character in there, and he's the other part of a narrator. Tangent off this. They did make sure he's has red eyes like a rooster should, which is as biologist, just real nice. You paid attention to detail. On the other hand, as someone living in British Columbia, dude looks stoned the entire time.
Oh.
Yeah. So he looked kind of like a stoner the entire time, but whatever. The songs and just the general style did seem very much like the old style westerns, into the Dukes of Hazzard style of conversing. Only Robin Hood really had the English accent. Maid Marian was kind of going on for it, but not quite. Her lady in waiting, Lady Cluck, I think it was. She had a Scottish accent. And I'm going to allow that because kind of a Scottish chicken sort of thing going on there. But that makes only not even a handful of people in the British story that have a British or even the British Isles accents anywhere amongst them. So it's woof.
Yeah. Well, this is, I don't know if you've heard this before, but apparently I can't remember where I heard this either. But if the Shakespeare plays are more closer to what you would have heard if you actually perform them with Southern accents. That's what they say, is that the accent of the United States South, like Georgia, Alabama.
Ah, do declare.
Yeah, that sort of thing. South Carolina would have been actually more similar to that Shakespearean era, although that's 400 years after Robin Hood. But that kind of thing is that we think of England having this one accent and the United States having this other accent. But,
no, if you know England, like the accents there.
Well, they have multiple. Yeah.
There's the old running joke. You can tell where a person's from down to which flat and whether they were living in the upper floor or the lower floor based on their accent.
Yeah, and that's in there's a play called Pygmalion about that. But yeah. So that there are people in the world who perform Shakespeare specifically that with Southern accents, just because they believe that that's closer.
Or it may just
actual...
be more conductive to how the style is. It may not be that they were that close. It may just be that they have speaking parallels. In that regard.
That's also it's the cadence and where they like the word guitar.
Yeah.
In the South, they'd say guitar.
Yeah.
But we say guitar. So
well, that'd be like the vowular shift, where instead you put your foot in your boat, as opposed to put your foot in the boot. Sort of thing. Where,
So things will rhyme better if you use that dialect, and the meter will make more sense. The iambic pentameter was apparently important for Shakespeare.
Very important for him.
Iambic pentameter, which we don't have time to get into, but
his rhyme scheme.
It sounds more natural when you read it with a Southern
I may have to go in and read some of that stuff again from that era and see if it does help out. Yeah. But I'll buy that, at least on the surface. Like any accent that winds up having a much more, I'll say, like a rhythmic base to it, should wind up being better for anything like Shakespeare and more poetic things.
Oh, probably, yeah.
But
I guess something like that could be in play with the Robin Hood, although I don't know what their source material is.
Well, that's the thing. It's like it's just like when I watched it as a kid, it never occurred to me. Like maybe that's because like the only radio station we had in town was a country station, and my dad was kind of big on the country songs. So it's like, yeah, of course, that's what people would sing for a song, right? Mm-hmm. Like, why would they not sing a style like that? It's just, it might be like just like as I am much more of a person now, I'm able to see like, oh, it's country in an English setting. Oh, okay. But now I can't complain about Disney's Hercules songs.
In Hercules they have like sort of what, jazz?
Kind of like Motown? A jazz Motown, sort of like the muses are like the chiffon sort of style going on there. Yeah. And it's like, oh wow, that's really not Greek at all. But it's like, oh, but you know what? You go back, like a half, century, and they were doing it then too. So it's like, if you didn't complain then, you can't complain now. So it's like, oh, didn't complain then. I guess I have to give up my rights. I'll be fair on that one. I'm giving it up.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, and it's a weird question to ask, like what music is actually appropriate for any given story, because movies nowadays often have like sort of cinematic, what we call cinematic tracks, which is sort of classical music, which does or doesn't fit. I mean, we have the example of The Knight's Tale that came out.
Well, I mean, you can look at it as a difference between Conan versus the Scorpion King.
Yeah.
Conan, Basil Polydoros, God bless his musical soul, was able to just put out like the whole, classic style, no modern sort of songs. Whereas the Scorpion King, they've got like actual lyrical songs based on like who was popular around the time. Mm-hmm. Neither of which I think was bad. I don't care what anyone says. The Scorpion King was a darn fine, entertaining movie.
Okay. I don't say otherwise. Well, I can't. I did
some
watch
of the
it.
reviews
I don't remember.
Are like, but I found it to be just like it's not like going to win Oscars or anything. But it's a very good, entertaining movie, and it did exactly what it set out to do.
Okay.
And so I don't think either one of them is lesser based on its choice of musics. I think they're just different styles, and I think it's like saying like who's your favorite child? It's like, well, like I kind of like them both, but for different reasons.
Wait, you have two kids?
No, but it's the question like that people ask, parents, because like who the hell asks this of their parent, right? It's like who's your favorite child?
To mess with Yeah, it's kind of like a jokey thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if people ask it seriously.
It's Tom. I like Tom the best. Dave can go suck it. I hate him. What a horrible kid.
I mean, it's kind of like if you ask that question, you sort of deserve whatever answer you get because it's
But that's the thing is, the answer should be I like them both for different reasons. I find this person, this way here and that one. I really dig the songs from the Scorpion King. That's something that's like, that'll pump me up. But if I want something to really focus me as like a nice background sound, like when I'm studying, like something, I'll put on Basil Polydoros, man. Like his orchestral scores, like as I'm like really studying something, I can get behind it without having to focus my attention elsewhere. It's good stuff. So yeah, I don't lament the fact that it's got Western songs and it's a Western, effectively, it is effectively like a country and Western movie for the Robin Hood. I just found it a little weird, watching it again with my daughter and then just suddenly realizing it because I never understood and realized this the first time. So it's like, oh. But then, as Zoe said, she gives it to, I guess her equivalent, highest regards if she'll watch it again.
Okay.
I'm okay with watching it again, but that said, I would not be paying a lot of attention to it again. It's something you're in and out and done.
Okay.
And the villain, like Prince John was not exactly a strong villain.
Okay. Yeah.
But he was a very fun villain to bamboozle, which is apparently all you really needed in this one. So in this one, I'm actually going to suspend my saying that the hero is only as good as the villain. In which case, in this case, you want like a funny, villain that can get easily, like swindled out of his money, because it makes for a more entertaining scene. But just this once. There we go. So yeah, that's been the review. We've gone a little bit over the time on this one here, though. So I guess that means we'll have to say our adieus. How can people get a hold of us?
Oh, yeah, send us email, thesimulationist@gmail.com. Comment on our Facebook page, facebook.com/thesimulationist. And send me little tweets on Twitter, @Josh_Treelaffin, TRESLAFFIN. Josh_Treelaffin.
Yeah.
And
we
also,
do try and check out Facebook at least once a day, so if you do want to get a hold of us that way with a nice little comment, should be able to get a good, easy turnaround on that one, almost guaranteed.
Yeah, if you're not already subscribed on iTunes, you can subscribe and get almost weekly. Usually we're pretty good.
Historically, weekly's been rather good. We're still in a state of flux as to figure out when's a good time.
Yeah, just with my new job and stuff. And so subscribe on iTunes. You can leave reviews on there. That would help us out a lot. You can visit our Patreon page, which hopefully soon I'll be updating again. Share in real life.
Yeah.
Tell a friend. That's the best way to.
If you have a friend that was completely mind-boggled by the news of like a planet being, around Proxima Centauri, but is also an author, then by God, you send them this link. Because if they manage to write this story out before Josh does, then I think it's fair. Fair's fair. They get it. All good.
I'm sure we'll have different takes. I think we can. I think there's room. That's what I believe generally about writing stories. Yeah. There's room for 2 different takes on the same idea. So yes, it's fine.
Okay. So yeah, you send them this thing, and you say like, "This is why you should have been so excited about this news, man. This is pure, wonderful, undiluted fodder for good storytelling." And if they do write it up, send the link for that, or tell us what the name of the book is, and send it back along the line.
Yeah, and we'll pass that on too.
Yeah.
I guess that's it.
Yeah.
All right.
You'll hear from us again, hopefully, in 1 week's time.
Give or take. Yeah. I've been Josh Treelaffin.
I've been Ryan Kirkby.